And I'm now joined by Aontu Leader Peadar Tobin, who's also TD for Meath West. I got it right. It seems to be get that mixed up from time to time. Peadar, the last time we spoke to you was on the 18th of December when the new Dail had reconvened, but your parliamentary team has grown since then. You've got a senator elected to the Seanad.
It has indeed. We're absolutely delighted that Seanador Sarah O'Reilly from Ballybor in Cavan is joining the Aontu Parliamentary team here in Leinster House. And that's a big boost for us. It's a big victory for Aontu, to be honest, to now have representatives of Council, the Dáil and the Seanad. And you know, if you look back in the last 12 months, it's been incredible. Look, we've won extra councillors, extra TDs, extra senators, and we have, you know, had the biggest increase of votes of any political party in the country. So there's a great momentum behind us. And, you know, we're even seeing that with the growth of membership at the moment, which is great. And, you know, we're really focused on building the movement on the ground up. And that is now having a knock-on effect up here in Leinster House.
And I believe Sarah was one of the first councillors that joined Aontu when you were established in around late 2018, early 2019. So it must be good to see someone who's been with you from the start now making the break onto the national stage.
It is. I'm especially delighted for Sarah because Sarah, first of all, is a poll topper twice over in Ballybor as a councillor, and she just missed out in the Dáil seat by 600 votes. So she's a real hard worker. She's very, very popular, and she's a woman who's not afraid to speak up and say what she feels, and that's really, you know, a very rare commodity in the Seanad, unfortunately, that Seanaders actually speak up for the people. So that's going to be fantastic there. And yes, you know, she's been with us from practically the start. And, you know, even the success that we've had in recent times, there's councillors out there now who have voted for Sarah to get into the Seanads. And that shows you that there's a lot of elected reps who may not be members of Aontu at the moment, but are actually pretty much aligned to us. Yeah. And we're actually starting to speak to them about coming over and joining us now as well.
Absolutely. And you've formed a technical group with Independent Ireland, who are, like yourselves, a pretty new and young party. I suppose it is really important for smaller groupings in the Dáil to come together, because if you don't, it's very, very hard to get speaking time.
Yeah, so people mightn't realise this. If you're not part of a technical group of at least 5 TDs, you pretty much have no speaking rights in here in the Dáil. And that means you cannot represent your constituents. You can't ask the Taoiseach questions. You can't ask ministers questions. You can't actually be a member of a committee. So you're snookered in terms of actually real representation. You know, if you have to spend 5 years in here not being able to represent your constituents, that's an absolute disaster. So yes, we're delighted to have joined a new technical group. It's called the Independent Technical Group, and we're there with Independent Ireland and Paul Gogarty as well. There's 7 of us in that group. Now, it's purely a platform. It's not a political alliance. Today is the first time the Dáil has met consecutively since November 6th, wow, which is quite incredible. And it's also, this time it's 2 weeks ago since the storm that wreaked so much havoc through the country. So it's quite incredible that we had a debate today just on the issue of the storm 2 weeks after it happened. And we also found that the senior minister didn't even attend that debate. So little did he think of that debate. And I think one of the major problems in this country is we're a very Dublin-centric country. So, you know, we've seen the whole kind of the west and the northwest and even the Midlands kind of wiped out by this storm in terms of electricity power. And you look at where the ministers are located. 60% of the ministers are in the Greater Dublin area. Only 1 minister for the whole of Connacht Ulster. So it's not by accident that those who haven't got power in their homes don't have it, because the power is actually located, and political power is located here in Dublin. But I will say also, I put in a parliamentary question just to the minister to find out how many staff are actually working on the job of reconnecting family homes. And the minister turned around and wrote a letter to me and said he has no responsibility for that issue. So the Minister for Energy said he has no responsibility for the reconnection of family homes to the energy grid, which is absolutely outstandingly shocking. So, you know, we also raised another issue here today, which is interesting, is about the OPW. So people may have remembered that the OPW were responsible for building the Gucci bicycle shed here at an enormous cost, the over €1 million security hut, the €500,000 wall around the WRC. And Aontu has been to the fore of trying to hold the government to account over the enormous waste, because this is citizens' money, this that they are incinerating at the moment. So I got a parliamentary question back, and I raised it in the Dáil today. The OPW has spent 14 years building a wall on the Hill of Tara. Now, the Hill of Tara is one of the most important heritage sites in the country, but actually is very poorly served by the OPW. It doesn't have a full-time office in terms of interpretation.
I think, if my memory serves me right, it predates the ceremony. It does indeed. So, like, it's the former capital of Ireland, really. It's where the High Kings of Ireland were located for well over 1,000 years. It's a magnificent place, and I really urge people to go and enjoy it. But unfortunately, the OPW have been building a wall there around the graveyard for the last 14 years, which is incredible. Even at the glacial history of this government, 14 years is just a record-breaking wall, and I'm calling it the Great Wall of Tara at this stage that the government are wasting the money on. We know that they spent well over 130,000 euros just in the materials, and they won't give me the labour costs for the project, which is absolutely startling as well. So one of the big projects we have as a party is to lift the lid, lift the bonnet, if you like, on all the different semi-states and government agencies over the next while, and go through step by step the level of waste that's happening in an effort to make sure that they are delivered more efficiently, saving money for the taxpayer.
And what do you make of the comments from the ESB as a result of the repair work that has to be done, that will continually passed on to consumers who are already paying some of the highest electricity prices in Europe?
Yes, this is another frustrating element about the ESB. Like, the ESB has made a profit of about 800 billion euros last year. You know, it's an extremely profitable organisation. Its job is not to become massively financially wealthy. Its job is to provide an efficient electricity system in the country. And, you know, to be honest, one of the reasons why we had such a failure of the system in the West and in the Northwest and the Midlands is because the system is not up to scratch in reality. 4 times as much electricity is undergrounded in Britain, for example, than happens here. So we're more dependent on overground transmission. And actually, the government are looking to build the north-south interconnector, which is a 200 or 300 kilometre overground cable of, that will go from County Meath into Tyrone, which would be an ideal target for a future storm in terms of throwing that as well. So, there's absolutely no doubt that we need the ESB to start to look at how it can reduce profitability, to reduce the electricity price, to make it easier on families. So the government is one of the biggest sources of the cost of living crisis on people. The ESB is a perfect example of that. They've radically increased the level of excise and carbon duty on fuel over the last while, and even this week, Unpus came out with the 5th increase in stamps in less than 4 years. A 65% increase in the price of stamps just in that 4-year period.
Yeah, that is incredible. And the Irish government actually does well out of the ESB as well. It gets a dividend from the state. So do you think maybe the government should forego that dividend for the next couple of years to help towards the cost of repairs?
Absolutely. Like, the ESB worked on basis of the policy that's set out by the minister. The minister set a policy that the ESB is not focused on profiteering, that they're focused on the delivery of good infrastructure in the country, and that's not happening at the moment.
Absolutely. And Peadar, as well, during the election, you broke that threshold of 2.5%, which entitles you to state funding. How important is that for you now going forward as regards growing the party when we look to future local and European and general elections?
Oh, it's massive. Like, to be honest, this week we put out our first email to the membership with 2 job offers, which is great, and people are coming back to us now with their CVs and cover letters on that. People do not realise how difficult it is to build a political party from scratch, and a political party that has not got the prevailing winds of the media behind it, but one that's actually willing to stand against the prevailing winds of the political establishment and represent people. So that has been enormously difficult, and the way that we have done that is by hard work on the ground over and over again. But a lot of that hard work has been on the shoulders of a small number of people, and it's not sustainable to ask people, especially in a volunteer capacity, to continue on, indefinitely in relation to that. So it looks like now that we're going to have up to 7 or 8 new staff, and we're going to have we have new offices now in Mayo with Paul Lawless, new office in Cavan soon with Sarah O'Reilly. So we'll have offices in at least 4 counties currently, allowing people to get in contact with us. And I just want to pay tribute to Paul Lawless in terms of the work that he's done in terms of Storm Own. We hear that Paul has given the most amount of reps of any TD in the country in terms of reconnection of homes after that storm. He's been on the ground continuously, really helping families with humanitarian aid, making sure that if they can't get electricity reconnected to their homes, that they can at least get a stay in a hotel for a period of time, especially if they have an illness as well. And that's the key issue. We want to get to a situation across the country when a person asks a question, who do you go to if you want to get things done, that the default answer is you go to Aontu. They're the only people doing anything around here.
Absolutely. Well, they say you want something done, you ask a busy person. Well,
Sure.
Peadar Tobin, leader of Aontu, thanks a million for taking the time to chat with us here on the
Gerby Lamont.